Rise, please.
Oh boy.
Before we get started, I'd like to have a moment of silence for a recently deceased resident of High Street, a neighbor of the city clerk, actually. Jerry Cody, who was a long-time poll worker, whose wife passed away not long ago, who was a city employee for many years. Jerry Cody, terrific guy. Thank you. I hope you'll join in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. I might also add that Mr. Cody kept his lawn in such pristine condition that he put all of the neighbors, including those on Woodland Street, to shame. We'll have a call to the order. Mr. Clerk, please.
Roll call for the March 25th meeting. Councilor Z.
Present.
Councilor Devlin.
Here.
Councilor Earls is absent. Councilor Eigenman.
Here.
Councilor Junta is absent. Councilor Khan.
Present.
Councilor O'Brien.
Here.
Councilor Shan.
Present.
Councilor Tontar.
Here.
Councilor Vogel.
Present.
Councilor Connell.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Are there any late file items?
There are no late file items. The councilors will see on their desk as the meeting goes along. There is some crafted language to some rules changes, but that won't happen until the committee items are taken.
Very well. Public comment?
And her daughter Fiona.
All right, fine. The first name on our list is a familiar one to us. Walt Thompson. Would you please approach and tell us where you live, Walt?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, President, councilors. Just a minute here to say thank you for everybody's support. Lisa Reed has done a wonderful job with her Parks Commission in looking at the restrictions on the glyphosate. And yes, it did take me weeks and weeks to learn how to say that. So we're going to move forward with the proposed new ordinance, and I look forward to public hearings. But I wanted to thank everybody that I've interacted with here in this building for their support as the education and awareness starts to build. And just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to thank Walt for drafting a resolution that was adopted by the Board of Health this past week that you'll be hearing more about. It'll be in the paper shortly. Kelly Mahan and her daughter Fiona.
Yes, hello everyone. Kelly Mahan, my daughter Fiona. We live at 36 Beacon Avenue in Newburyport. And we wanted to come this evening to say thank you to the City of Newburyport, to the City Council, to the Mayor, for allowing us to host the Greater Newburyport PAMAS Challenge Kids Ride for the past 7 years. Last year, our Kids Ride raised over $13,000. We had 117 participants and over 50 volunteers. Over the past 7 years, our ride has raised over $70,000 for Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. This ride is one of 34 kids' rides held throughout New England, and we are very proud that the City of Newburyport is part of the PAMAS Challenge mission. We're raising money to support innovative cancer research and patient care at Dana-Farber. We enjoy our ride very much in the beautiful Cashman Park area and the Clipper City Rail Trail. The kids enjoy biking the rail trail. We also have Tykes on Trikes on the basketball court, face painting, DJ, merchandise raffle, pizza and refreshments, a creation area where kids are making cards and pictures for patients at Dana-Farber. We're very proud and thankful for all the local businesses that support our ride each year. As a 15-year PMC supporter, one-year rider, and loyal spectator each year at the adult ride in August, I can tell you that this PMC Kids ride is every bit as fun and gratifying as the real adult ride in August. I hope you'll consider the proposed 2019 Kids Ride again as an important and worthwhile community event. I invite you to register your children, grandchildren, nieces, and nephews in our ride this year, or to get involved as a volunteer or as a cheerleading spectator along the rail trail. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Fiona, do you have anything you'd like to add? All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
We don't bite, really.
Just each other. Some of us.
Isn't that Isabella?
I was getting too heated.
Hi, Jeanette Isabella, 1 Lime Street. I want to say 2 things. One is I hope and I think that there's support for ridding us of Roundup, and I can't say the word yet.
Glyphosate.
Practice enough. We're very smart. But we really need, I hope that it can become a citywide ban, because nobody needs to have this on their lawns, and people shouldn't be breathing it. But anyway, thank you for whatever consideration you give that. And the other thing I want to say is, I think that you're going to talk about the new equipment for the firemen, and please show that, my God, we all know what they do for us, and we have to give them as much as we can so they're going to be okay, because where would we be without them? So, thank you.
Thank you. Those are all the folks that have signed up to speak. Next, we'll move on to the mayor's comment. Mayor Holliday, you're up.
Good evening, President Connell, members of the City Council, members of the public. Happy to give you a brief update. Capital improvement plan is before you according to the charter. It's supposed to be delivered to you by April 1st. We were a little ahead of the curve this year, which was great. This represents a tremendous amount of work on the part of the department heads working with our finance team, Ethan Manning, Matt Coogan, myself, as we review every single request, prioritize, look at how it can be funded, and then put it into this 5-year plan. Next City Council meeting, you will be receiving the order for approval of what we have identified for the capital improvement plan for this year going into F20, fiscal year 20. So that will come shortly. The total for the CIP plan for FY20 is $7.5 million, and that's funded through a combination of things, through free cash, our sewer water enterprise accounts, and grant programs. I would like to talk to you about several transfers that are in your packet tonight. There's 3 capital improvement plan items that we have pulled out of the plan due to the time sensitivity of their projects. One being the bids are going out for, if they haven't gone out already, last week for the phase 3 of the high school cupola restoration. If you just take a minute, if you're up there, and look up and see the shape of this cupola. We've done the restoration of the woodwork in all other areas on the facade of the building, but this is really, really important to do that. They still had a balance of some CPA funds, but there was a gap of $109,000. And so we split that between free cash, and also thought this was a school project and it made sense to take part of that out of the Kelly School proceeds. Look forward to having further conversation with you about that, as well as Steve Burkholm will, I'm sure, be here to answer any additional questions. However, the detail in your capital plan, I think, there's a lot of detail in your capital plan about this project. The parks, they OSHA is being very strong about the use of when you need to use slope mowers. Some of you have seen things at the Bartlett Mall with a rope and people pulling the mowers up. This is highly dangerous and inappropriate way to take care of slopes. This is a mower that will be home in the Parks Department, but will be shared by the schools to do the high school, Richie Eaton Field, other slopes that we have in the city, as well as DPS, Marches Hill. We can go on and on. So this is also something that is time sensitive because we have to start mowing fairly soon, let's hope. The weather continues to improve. The other capital plan is for Plum Island. As you may recall, back in November, we had put a request. We had a settlement regarding a case involving PVC pipe that we had an account and decided this would be appropriate. The pipe was used on the turnpike to Plum Island. Not that there's any issues with it, nothing like what we dealt with Plum Island Water and Sewer. I assure you, the pipe is fine, but thought this would be an appropriate account to reach into and buy those large cement blocks to build and extend the wall on Reservation Terrace. However, we were promptly told by DEP, the Conservation Commission, and DCR that you will not be able to do that. So instead, we regrouped and decided to go forward with another dune nourishment like we did last year. We, again, are looking at partnership with Darryl, I always say his name wrong, Foggioni, thank you, who is an engineer from DCR who's been amazing to work with out on Plum Island, with Jewel Goffredson, our legislative delegation under Bruce Tarr, the MRBA. The residents are coming together to purchase sand. So this is, again, a true public-private partnership with everybody out there and using the sand from the Charles Dredge that will be very helpful to help restore some of the dune there. The other piece that you'll notice in your picture is at the gazebo and boardwalk that comes from by Jason Sawyer Playground out to the beach. It's very treacherous right now. The erosion has started to move into this particular facility. This was a state project that was done, I think, in '02, and we have had to shut it off until we can figure out what to do. We're trying to see if we can include that and at least get some sand there to make it usable for this summer season, but I will keep you posted on that. There is also another transfer before you that I wanted to discuss, was for parks for $28,500 for the Parks Department to get through the rest of this fiscal year and be able to hire the seasonal and temporary staff that they have. We had anticipated payment from the Pioneer Field and from the schools that would have helped to cover this deficit, but unfortunately it didn't happen. And we now really need this funding to be able to clean up our parks and get things ready for the spring season. So I would really appreciate your support on that transfer. Paving. Sorry, your packet got a little screwed up, but you should have only this chart is what we're doing for paving. This is the comprehensive plan, and Matt will make sure that that is corrected in your packet and that that chart is posted. So the costs are listed there. We're doing High Street from North Atkinson, which is essentially where the 113 project started, and that will take us to Winter Street. That's $735,000. That's Chapter 90 money. One thing to keep in mind is that next April, Safe Routes to School project will start. So we're not going to do a full mill and grind and paving in the Safe Routes to School, but we will certainly clean it up and make it a skim coat there, so it will be in much better shape than it currently is. On Merrimack Street, we'll be doing from Spofford to Kent, and that's $885,000. We know these areas of, we've been trying to cobble this money together over the last 2 years to do these 2 roads, and I'm very, very pleased that we'll be able to move forward. The bids will probably go out next week for that. Toppins Lane, again, we did some infrastructure work there, and the trenches have settled, and it's time to get that done also. And that will be from Low Street to Summit. On Pleasant to Titcomb, obviously that area across from the church in front of the residents who will be abutting the garage, that road is a mess, but that involves doing the sidewalks also. We also have money left over from the paving of the middle school parking lot, and we'll take care of some sidewalks that are in pretty tough shape in front of the Knockmolin School. And then we'll be doing work at Cashman, the boat ramp, and the parking lot through a grant that we have from the Harbor Commission. There potentially could be some additional sidewalks that are added as we move forward into the construction season. But don't hesitate to reach out and ask additional questions of me, Matt, or Tony if you have questions about the projects that we have picked this year. And then just a couple other quick notes. I just wanted to let you know that I was asked to testify on Friday at the Senate hearing on Chapter 70 school funding. It was a very, very long all-day event, but what struck me so much was the fact that all the people testifying, whether kids, parents, superintendent organizations, teacher organizations, were all presenting the same message. So I'm more encouraged this year about changes in school funding than I have been in a long time. And also wanted to let you know that the Guard is moving forward on, they'll be meeting, their Armory Commission will be meeting in the second week of April, and at that point they will be surplusing the emergency ops building, and we will begin working with DCOM and have much more information for you about what's happening with that. And then on Wednesday we're meeting with Senator Markey's office is hosting District 1 Army Corps of Engineers to talk more about the dredging of the Merrimack River. And we're also doing a press release this Thursday in Boston regarding CSOs, and then there are several bills that are up before the Environmental Committee on April 2nd, and I will be testifying on behalf of Newburyport about the CSO bill also. So if anyone else would like to join me to talk about CSOs, I'm more than willing to help take everyone into Boston for this meeting next week. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Are there questions from councilors? I see Councilor Zeid and then Councilor Tonto.
I just have 2 questions about the paving. So one is, last year we had the 5-year plan. So I had a number on there that were in my ward: Oak Street, Riley, South Pond. Do you think that there's going to be any chance of getting to those this year? Because people
it's
have
hard
asked.
to say because I know there's some roads that are in tough shape over there.
Yeah.
One is almost down to gravel, I understand, but we really have got to take care of High Street and Merrimack Street. They are so bad.
Okay, well, some of my residents had expectations that, on
I know
this
that
plan,
happened.
so I know it's tough,
winter conditions changes things.
Sure. The other question I had was just about, so if I add up the Chapter 90 money, it's like probably 1.8 million. So is it just basically money left over from previous Chapter 90s?
Yeah.
So it's 500, and then there's, I don't know,
Right.
1 point something.
Right.
Okay, I understand.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Tonto.
I think I know the answer to this, but on Merrimack Street, under notes, it's blank. So does that not include sidewalks, or does it include?
We're going to try and do some on Merrimack across from the Pioneer Field, that stretch.
Yep.
I think some of the sidewalks are in tough shape.
They're in real tough shape.
Yeah, so they're going to go evaluate those. And we didn't put, because we weren't sure how many are the stretch, but we haven't included all of the meals tax money that we have. About $299,000. So there will, as I said, there will be some additional sidewalks that will be done, and certainly we will consider roads that had been prioritized for this year that we haven't been able to get to. But Columbus is one too that we'll be doing that we haven't. With the gases out there, has started today.
Yep.
So once the gas is done, we go to water sewer.
Yep.
Probably only replacing the water line and being able to do some. I don't want to say patching, but being able to at least salvage the sewer line that's there, and then the paving will happen. So I know they've been waiting for about 5 years for that project too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mayor, I have two questions, if
Sure.
you'd indulge me. I think there's an expectation in the community that Complete Streets funds will be applied during this fiscal year. Can you address that first?
Well, we have to submit the application, and I anticipate we get funding notice June?
We submit the plan and then we get the application due in May. And we'll do that.
Roughly how long?
It's a quick turnaround.
It's pretty quick turnaround, but it probably wouldn't start until spring construction because we stop construction in November.
Yeah.
So the timing isn't really terrific. So I would imagine that would be a spring project, same time we're doing Safe Routes to School.
And that would preclude the possibility of changes in the configuration of Pioneer Park, because that was a priority under Complete Streets. Is that right?
Right, but we don't have sufficient funds to make all of those changes, but at least we can make it safer in terms of, the hawk lights and crosswalks and, and that way we can maybe look at other grant programs between now and Complete Streets and see if we can do anything to reconfigure some of the parking there.
I have one question unrelated to that, and I don't know if it's a typo, but in your summary you refer to the Cashman Park board ramp and parking lot. Was that boat ramp?
It's supposed to be.
Thank you.
Board ramp.
Boat ramp.
To think.
Any other questions from the members?
Build the boardwalk.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
All the way down to.
Ask the clerk to walk us through the consent agenda.
Which consists this evening of the approval of the minutes for March 11th. That has been removed at the request of Councilor Eigenman. There are 4 transfers. Transfer 41, free cash 54,000, regarding sale of municipal buildings, same amount, go to budget and finance, and NHS exterior work 109,000. Transfer 42, health insurance 28,000. To part-time seasonal labor, same amount, budget and finance. Transfer 43, free cash, 28,000 to the slope mower purchase, same amount, budget and finance. Transfer 44 regarding the terrace wall construction at 22,000 has been removed at the request of Councilor Eigenman. Then we have a number of communications. Communication 127, mid-year budget report, receive and file. Communication 128, open streets, Parks Department, 6/23/2018 to go to public safety. Communication 129, annual Pan Mass Challenge Kids Ride, 6/9 to go to public safety. Communication 130, Cultural Survival Bazaar, 7/20 and 21 to go to public safety. Communication 131, Alzheimer's Ride, 6/23/2019 to go to public safety. Communication 132, freestanding sign at 3 Perkins Way to go to P&D Committee. Communication 133, 9th Annual Ovarian Cancer Run, 9/22/2019, Public Safety. Communication 134, FY Capital Improvement Plan submission, which goes with what the councilors will see on their desk, the binder. That is to go to Budget and Finance. Communication 135, letter from the Chamber of Commerce regarding parking permits in the garage to go to Budget and Finance. One appointment, Rick Tainter, 10 Dexter Street, to the Planning Board, 4/1/2020. And that, with those 2 changes, is the consent agenda.
Motion to amend.
Motion to amend, is there a second?
Well, the amendment is, I believe appointment 91, because it's a planning board appointment, should be referred to planning and development under our rules.
Second.
If I have that correct.
You do, thank you.
Good catch. Other amendments?
Motion to approve as amended.
All right, motion to approve as amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. No? No no's. Okay, so what are we going to do with the mayor's update?
Motion to receive and file.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Now, I think we have the approval of the minutes from March 11th that was taken out of the consent agenda.
Yeah, motion to amend as to Order 84 under Public Safety, 15-minute parking.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Councilor
Yeah,
Reichman.
it was a little chaotic, but we didn't actually pass the amendment to change it to 30 minutes, so it is 15 minutes.
Yeah, if I may,
Yeah.
Counselor,
Yep.
I thought we should recite that motion was made, but we should say it fails due to no second.
I accept that as a friendly amendment. That's fine. Let's do it that way. Failed.
I'm sorry, what did you suggest? Just strike it? Either way.
I would strike it because I don't think we actually even held a vote on it. I think it was
No,
withdrawn.
no, it never made it out.
There was no second. It was not withdrawn. Yeah.
What are we taking out?
Motion to amend to 30 minutes from 15 by Councilor Zede. It did not receive a second. We're going to strike it from the minutes.
That's it. That's all I have.
Further discussion on that matter?
Motion to approve as amended.
I think the motion's on the floor, isn't it? As amended. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's amended. Now we have transfer 44, which I think also came out of the consent agenda.
Oh,
Councilor Eigenman?
yeah, I have to recuse myself on this one due to a perceived conflict of interest because family property nearby.
Very well.
Motion.
Is there discussion on transfer 44?
Motion to refer to Budget and Finance.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Could someone get Councilor Eigenman, please? Oh, here he comes.
Wow, coincidence.
Next item up is communication, I believe, 120.
Motion to remove from the table.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion to table.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is tabled again. Thank you. Move to appointments.
We have appointment Chris Keeley, which is a confirmatory appointment. The reason it's confirmatory is that through a Scribner's error, the last communication that came through had him as Assistant Harbor Master. He is indeed a member of the Harbor Commission until 12/31/2022. We thought we would put it in to be sure. That also is coupled with second reading of Paul Healy, 8 N Street, Conservation Commission, 5/1/2022, and Dr. Sam Marabi, 7 Brown Square, Board of Health, 4/1/2022.
Motion to approve collectively.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call on this matter, please.
Correct.
Point of order, just,
Councilor?
yes, thank you, Mr. President. Just quick question, did some of these appointments need to be in committee, and if they were we supposed to receive? Like, were we supposed to get an update?
This
I
is
didn't remember. They were in our rules that we looked at. Some of them were in a committee referral, unless I misread the rules.
a fair point. Maybe the clerk would like to respond to that.
I don't think they were in committee, were they not? I think they were. Generally, the first reading is, frankly, receive and file. The second reading allows a period of 2 weeks for people to investigate, talk. So there are some that do go to committee, but these did not go to committee as far as I know.
Is that adequate, Councilor?
I thought I saw it sorry.
Okay.
Yes, Council President, we were looking at our rules, and I just remember seeing it earlier, and I thought these guys were listed under that. So I just wanted to get clarification.
Okay.
Were they?
Thank you.
Councilor Eigenman?
Yeah, I think the councilor at large is correct. So under Rule 20A, it says, notwithstanding the optional referral of proposed appointments, the following officers shall always be referred to the standing committee with oversight. And it includes Health Commission, Conservation Commission, I'm checking Harbor.
I think
It is there halfway down.
Is it there?
Is it on the list?
Did they actually go to committee?
No, Harbor Master, not the Harbor Commission.
see.
So we can act on Chris Keeley, but the other two, we would have to waive our rules. You
That's
can
a
do
fair
it
point.
by 2/3.
One resolution would be for us to withdraw the motion and take these up separately.
Withdrawn.
Second withdrawn.
Motion to approve appointment 82, Christopher Keeley, Harbor Commission, 12/31/22.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion? Hearing none, a roll call on Chris Keeley.
Roll call on Christopher Healy, appointment 82, only to the Harbor Commission. Councilor Zede?
Yes.
Councilor Devlin?
Yes.
Councilor Eigenman?
Yes.
Councilor Khan?
Yes.
Councilor Bryan?
Yes.
Council Shan?
Yes.
Council Tonto?
Yes.
Council Vogel?
Yes.
Council Connell?
Yes. Now we have two items still standing in second reading. What's the will of the council?
I'd like to make a motion to waive the rules and take it up tonight.
I'll second that.
The motion is to waive the rules and take these up collectively, Councilor?
Yes.
Discussion?
Was that seconded by Council Vogel?
Yes.
Councilor Vogel seconded. Hearing no discussion, all those in favor will take a roll call.
Okay, and the motion to waive, Councilor Zede?
No.
Councilor Devlin?
Yes.
Councilor Eigenman?
Yes.
Councilor Khan?
No.
Councilor O'Brien?
Yes.
Councilor Shan?
No.
Councilor Tontar?
No.
Councilor Vogel?
Yes.
Councilor Connell?
Yes.
Needing 2/3 to waive the rules, it fails.
Unbelievable.
Okay. We'll take them up at a future date. Is there a subsequent motion, that motion having failed?
So, right now, there is no motion on the floor.
I'll
There's
make
no,
one.
no motion on the floor. Councilor Eigenman?
Motion to refer appointment 90 Sam Marabi to the Committee on Public Safety.
Second.
And Mr. Healy, were you going to address that as well as?
I got to look that one up.
All right, we have a motion to refer Dr. Marabi to public safety. Discussion. Hearing none. Does this have to be a roll call? Not for a referral.
No.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
1 no.
1 no. And we have one further appointment to deal with.
Bear with me. Motion to refer appointment 89, Paul Healy, to
Planning and development.
Planning and Development.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
1 no. Okay, we're done with appointments for
My
now.
apologies, that's the clerk's error.
Orders.
Order 93, gift of artwork to the city of Newburyport.
Motion to refer to Budget and Finance.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. President, would you like me to read that for the sake of the record?
Please do.
Which I mentioned to the individual I would. It's with a gift of gratitude from Scott Signori, an oil painting by Richard Gibney of the buildings along the waterfront before demolition by the Newburyport Redevelopment Authority in the amount of $1,500 submitted Councilor Tontar. Thank you.
Very well. We'll move on to ordinances.
Oh, we didn't vote on it.
I'm sorry. I stand corrected. The gift of artwork from Scott Signori.
That's already been voted on, correct?
It has been voted on.
You
I
referred it
moved
to-
ordinances.
Budget and
It's
Finance.
backwards. The budget and
I'm
finance.
sorry.
That leads us to ordinances, Ordinance 30.
Mm-hmm.
Am I correct?
Yep.
Yes.
That is the amendment to Article 27, Downtown Overlay District, submitted by Councilor Eigenman. It goes on for a number of pages, and I'm sure he can talk to it.
Motion to refer to Planning and Development.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Councilor Eigenman.
Just very briefly, so we're 5 years in on the downtown overlay, and we have some experience. This tightens up when the planning board would get expert opinion and how quickly they can get it. Staff had actually complained a couple years ago that the timelines weren't long enough, and also we would have a window guidance document so that they don't have to worry about windows again. And this will obviously go to the planning board. Andy Port's not here tonight, but he had some other tweaks he wanted to make.
Very well. Further discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor of referring this matter to planning development, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Deferred. Ordinance 31.
Ordinance 31, which is the ordinance to establish the regulation of the use of glyphosate.
Motion to move to public safety?
Jointly submitted Councilors Earls and Connell.
The motion was Councilor Shan to refer this to public safety. Is there a second?
You need to
Second,
waive.
Councilor Khan. Discussion. Councilor Tantar.
Point of order, one of the sponsors is not present, so should we, I would move to suspend the rules and to refer to public safety.
Is that a friend?
Maybe we have to go separate. So there's a motion on the floor, so I don't know how you want to deal with it.
Well,
But
you can...
it can be withdrawn and then...
I can withdraw my second.
John, thank you.
I was going
So
to
right
say
now
you can
it's
amend the motion, but go ahead.
Motion to suspend the rules so we can consider this without a sponsor being present.
So it is a motion to refer under a suspension of the rules.
Just to suspend it at this point,
Says the
right?
rules have
Yes,
both,
just to
everybody on it
suspend
has
at
to
this
be there.
point.
That's to
So that
suspend.
would
All
be
right.
12D.
seconded by?
Second.
Thank you.
Seconded. All those in favor of suspending the rules so that we may refer this matter to committee, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Now,
Motion to move to public safety?
Second.
moved and seconded to refer to public safety. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Present. Present. Thank you.
One present. We're already at committee items. Budget and Finance.
Motion to remove transfer 40, health insurance 30.5K, to fire protection clothing 28K, and 2.5K to clerk administration.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Done.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve. Seconded. Discussion. Councilor Tantar.
Yeah, this came out of Budget Finance with a 3-0 recommendation. The $28,000 of this will go to fire protection gear. The standard that we hope to achieve is to have 2 sets of gear for every firefighter that protects them from heat and also hazardous waste. Increasingly, there is greater awareness of the danger presented by chemicals from the fires. When firefighters return from a fire, they put the gear into an extractor, and they need, if there's another call, they need another set of gear. So the intent is to get 2 sets of gear for every firefighter. My understanding is we had fallen behind from that goal. This, along with budget in fiscal year 20, should catch us up. So there will be 2 sets of gear for every firefighter. The useful life of the gear is 10 years, and again, I urge you to vote yes. It was 3-0.
Further discussion. Hearing none, I'm going to ask the chief if he would like to add anything to the presentation made by Councilor Tantar.
I thought that was very elegant.
We always feel that way.
Very well said.
Further discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Anything else, Councilor?
Yes. Motion to remove Communication 107, the fiscal year 19 mid-year budget report.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion to receive and file.
Second.
Moved and seconded to receive and file. Discussion. Councilor Tantar.
Yeah, first of all, I would ask you to refer to Communication 107. No, 120. Well, no, we are dealing with 107.
121 is the next one. Is that
What came in tonight? I wrote it down someplace, and now I have lost it.
107. 007.
Hold it. I get it. It's Communication 127. That's right. And yeah, thank you. And the finance director, as normal, spectacular job here, put this together. It's a couple pager. The reason that we want to examine the mid-year budget report, other than the fact that it's in our rules to do so, is that it gives us a sense of how we're doing. You know, 2 years ago, the city that's known as the town of Methuen overspent considerably by hiring more police officers, and they didn't discover it until a little late. So it's important that we stay on top of this. And generally, one of the things we look at is, in general, are we in line with our expenditures? Are we in line with the revenue that's coming in? And we would report that yes, we are. A second thing that we look at is an examination of if there are any anticipated transfers, because what we budgeted to certain areas might not be sufficient. You'll find those here. They are and the explanations. I would note, you know, for instance, tonight the fire protective clothing is in there. Snow and ice at the last table was coming in at 119. After that was put together, there was another storm, and so it looks like $150,000 for snow and ice. Parks labor came in today for a transfer. You've seen that for $28,500, and then there are others, including parking budget, heavy oil, and et cetera. So the other than that, there's some detail, but I would point your attention to licenses and permits. There was concern in past years that because of some of the zoning changes that we had done in the council, that had resulted in reduced revenue in that category. And the data this year does not support that hypothesis. The new construction is the same as it was last year, and alterations shows a 150% increase over the year before. So, you know, from the height of the construction boom a couple of years ago, there is a drop. But in terms of alterations, in terms of the budget, that looks healthy. So, again, 3-0 in committee to recommend receive and file.
Thank you, Councillor. Additional discussion. And while the Finance Director is here, are there any questions you'd like to direct to the Finance Director? Hearing none. All those in favor of receiving and filing this item, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Motion to remove Communication 121, the annual audit of the city's fiscal year 18 financial statements.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion to receive and file.
Second.
Seconded. I heard Councillors Khan or Devlin. I guess it's Khan finished the sentence. Councillor Tonto.
Yeah, we are required to have an annual audit every year. The purpose is to obtain, and I quote here, reasonable assurance that the city's financial statements are free of material misstatements. A material misstatement would be would be a material weakness that is a misstatement of financial statements that could not be prevented. All right. So in other words, they're looking at our financial practices to see if they reasonably would prevent a misstatement. Either intentionally or unintentionally, from what I understand. The audit concluded that the city's financial statements are presented fairly and are in conformity with normal accounting processes, which is what we need. There are no deficiencies. They also include with the audited financial statement a management letter, in which they look at our internal auditing practices, and they generally make recommendations. In the past, there have been material weaknesses. There are none this year, and their recommendations have been reduced to 3. And those 3 are One is because of a change in federal audit rules. The second is because of to centralize and automate employee compensated absences. And the third is to improve reconciliation between the bank, treasurer's book, and general ledger. And my understanding is we're making great progress on that last category. And I would defer to the finance director for any other further questions you might have.
Further discussion. Would the finance director like to address us on this matter, or perhaps wait to a future date?
No, I think Councilor Tontar gave a good summary. We did just review these audited financial statements with Standard & Poor's last week, and they gave a very favorable opinion of it as well. So very much in line with what we've been seeing the past few years, which is good as far as the financial standing for the city.
Very well. Questions of the finance director while he's here? Hearing none.
Just
the motion, Councilor Tontar.
Yeah, again, I would like to thank the finance department and the finance director again, who's done a spectacular job on both the mid-year budget report and of course the audited financial statement. I got to do that, otherwise you won't answer my phone calls. No, I'm kidding.
I believe the motion is to receive and file. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Councilor Tontar, is there anything else?
Unfortunately, we are done.
Thank you. Education. Oh, Mr. Ginta is not here tonight. General government. No. License and permits.
Motion to remove communication 125.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilor Zede, I believe it was. Discussion. Councilor Vogel.
This is a routine application to continue on. It's been in business for quite some time. Everything is present and accounted for. And by a vote of 2-0, the license and permit suggests we approve.
The recommendation was to approve. Discussion. Beyond that of the chair. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Very well. Neighborhood and city services. Planning and development.
Motion to remove appointment 86, Ann Gardner.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Councilor Argument.
The committee met earlier tonight, and Ms. Gardner attended, and we asked her some questions. We don't actually have a resume for her, so we may want to waive that rule, Rule 20. But she gave us some of her background and actually gave us some really good feedback on making sure there's enough legal firepower at the planning board on the city side. So we unanimously, 2-0 with one absence, recommended her reappointment.
Thank you.
Motion.
Councilor, would you like to amend the motion
Yes,
to include a
I'm
waiver
sorry.
of the rules so we can take this up
Motion to waive Rule 20 to allow reappointment of Ann Gardner without a resume submitted. Does that work?
So,
Second, if it works.
and seconded. On the matter of waiving the rules, discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
1 no. And now the appointment,
Motion to approve.
Second.
and seconded. I believe we've already had discussion. Does anyone want to add to that or question the chair? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Roll call, Mr.
Roll
President.
call, it's a planning board matter.
Approval of Ann Gardner, appointment number 86. Councilor Z.
Yes.
Councilor Devlin.
Yes.
Councilor Eigenman.
Yes.
Councilor Khan.
Yes.
Councilor Bryan.
Yes.
Councilor Shan.
Yes.
Councilor Tontar.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Connell.
Yes.
Thank you.
Nothing further, Mr. President.
Nothing further. Public safety?
Nothing. We continued the hearing today to Thursday at 6 p.m.
And what was on the agenda for that?
A whole bunch of stuff. So,
Okay.
yep.
Thank you.
I think two new items were added too for Thursday.
Very well. Public utilities.
Just a brief update, Mr. President. I wanted to let folks know that I went to a meeting upstairs about resiliency at the wastewater treatment plant about a week or so ago. I think Councilor Shan was also in attendance, sat next to me. Councilor Khan came as well after our budget and finance meeting. Is there anybody else? Maybe I'm forgetting, but in any event, Newbury, which, let me just give the quick backdrop. So you recall that the planning department has hired Stantec to help with design of the remainder of the rail trail. John Eric and the city engineer has hired Newbury to help with planning for the wastewater treatment plant. And Newbury did a nice, I thought was a good presentation. It's about an hour, 45-minute PowerPoint on 4 different options for protecting the plant and the pros and cons of each. I have a copy of it. If everybody's interested, I could send you the PowerPoint. I think it's also posted on the city website. You should take a look because there are some big plans in there. They've looked at different options for putting berms inside the plant, outside the plant, what they call a community option, which is the joint rail trail plus berm kind of option. Bottom line is we're trying to get to a 12-foot protection around the plant. That's sort of like, if you get through all this stuff, it's really you want to get to a 12-foot, not above grade, not 12 foot above grade, but 12 foot above whatever magical thing they use to measure. It's like mean low water or something like that. There will be, I think, big implications depending on which one you pick. For costs, that remains to be seen. They didn't cost out the different options, so that's something I think that remains to be seen. And also, I mean, particularly for me, as it is my ward, potentially abutter concerns and questions about how such a berm would look, how does it finish on the ends, and things like that. So as it continues to evolve, I just wanted to give you that information just in case it's helpful, and urge you to take a look at the PowerPoint just to see what Newbury is thinking and how that might look. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Further discussion? I think we haven't heard the last of this. Rules Committee.
Okay, we're going to be here until midnight now. Motion to remove Order 57.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's out.
Motion to return to the Rules Committee.
Motion to recommit.
Recommit.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Councilor Vogel.
As a matter, as a matter of bringing you up to date, this, as you recall, came in as last year with all the lateness to making application for use of the streets and fares and so on and so forth. In committee, we discussed this, and there's a general agreement, if you will, and I don't mean to put words in anybody's mouth, that the form involved for events is long and arduous and repetitive and so on and so forth. So it was left that we want to take a look at the form. We want to get a word from city solicitor as to exactly what needs to be there. We talked about block parties, setting up for cookies. There's so many little things and there's so many big things that we need to consider that we thought that this rule was just a little bit too much of a coverall. We talked maybe 6 weeks for major events, but maybe just a couple of weeks for block parties. Then we also talked about what it is to get the word out. How do people know what they have to do in order to do some of these events? So I will take it upon myself, and others will help as well, to kind of straighten some of this stuff up, and we'll go from there. So that's the report on that.
Fair enough.
So the motion is to recommit.
Further discussion. Councilor Zede.
I just want to stand and offer my support for the idea. I think it's, if you're coming to report to get some feedback, I think we'd worked on this concept a lot with the road race ordinance when we kind of settled on 60 days, and I would urge everybody to homogenize around the 60 days. Really what you're trying to do is balance being reasonably flexible, because we want people to enjoy the city, use the streets. They're good events. Many of them are enjoyable, but at the same time balance the needs of the abutters to know that something is coming, and also to kind of respect ourselves, particularly for large events, to give us time to process an application thoroughly and properly if we need to invoke the city solicitor or if we need to get liability, whatever the case. So I just wanted to voice, for the benefit of the committee, the value. I do think that it's interesting to do it as a rule versus an ordinance. This obviously is a rule like any other, can be waived by a 2/3 supermajority. I personally like the idea of going by ordinance and just making it clear that we have certain timelines we expect, and then we have to do an outreach, just as we've tried to do with races, where we've emailed people that have had events before, even hopefully pull people that have had block parties and tell them. So I think 60 days is a sensible timeline. So it's just what I was going to throw up, but certainly support all the corresponding efforts as well.
Thank you. Look to you for your help.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of recommitting this for future consideration, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's recommitted.
Motion to remove ordinance 77.
Second.
Moved and seconded, removed from committee. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
So I want a motion to, motion to approve.
Second.
Move to approve. Discussion. Councillor Vogel.
Actually, in committee, the committee voted 2-0 to not approve this. And the reason being is that there were a number of thoughts that not everybody knows everybody, that even though somebody may have been on a board for quite some time, there may be new committee members, there may be new members of council that have not met these people. And so we didn't feel as though it was arduous to ask for a resume to be included even for reappointment. So by a vote of 2-0, we urge you to not approve this order.
Further discussion? No further discussion. All right. Then I'm going to ask for a roll call on this matter because I think it's going to be a split vote.
So that's a motion approved by Councilor Vogel, seconded by Councilor Z. Am I correct?
Yes.
Correct.
And this is on Order 77, which essentially stands for the proposition of eliminating reappointments. Any
Resume for reappointment.
resume according to their width. So, Councilor Z.
No.
Councilor Devlin.
No.
Councilor Argument.
No.
Councilor Khan.
No.
Councilor O'Brien.
No.
Councilor Shan.
No.
Councilor Tontar.
No.
Councilor Vogel.
No.
Councilor President.
Yes. Councillor Vogel, is there anything else?
Theresa May moment.
Yeah. Now I'm a little afraid. Motion to remove communication 119.
Second.
Moved and seconded, removed from committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's out.
Let's see, how do we want to do this?
Motion to amend.
Yeah. Well,
Jump in.
let's I don't know how to best to
Councillor
One by
Vogel?
one at a time. Motion to amend. Should I go there?
For
There's nothing to
sanity,
amend if there's nothing on the floor.
for sanity's sake, if I could, so you're talking about 17B, 17A, 7, 21. Those three?
Yeah.
Yep.
So one could take it
One at a time.
arithmetically.
Okay. So which one's first?
17A.
Okay. Motion to amend. Is that what we're doing?
I'm sorry, we need a motion on the floor before we
I
can
am
amend
motioning.
something.
Well, I'm trying to motion.
We don't have a matter before us, so you have to put a motion before us before we can amend it.
Did you not
Motion
do?
to approve.
Okay.
Is there a second? To approve.
Yes.
The rules, yes.
Now we
Second.
have a matter on the floor.
Okay.
Discussion. Councillor Vogel.
Okay. See if I, let me, now that I'm thoroughly confused. So the first one, so motion to amend, is that what you want me to do, Mr. Clerk?
Yes.
17A, is that correct?
17A.
That's
yes.
correct.
Thank you. So if you want to look at the Rule 17A, there's a matter has been presented before us. You have the paperwork.
Yes. Looks like this.
Yes. The councillor from Ward 1 has presented these changes. And with that, I will leave it to the councillor of Ward 1 to describe his changes.
Councillor Z.
Thank you to the chair and to the president. So basically, 17A, as you know, was emailed just for informational purposes on Thursday or Friday. It was amended subsequently. So the one you have on your desk with the handwritten is the latest version, just to get you on the same page. Let me make it really simple. We already have rules about how things are going to come out of committee. Committee chairs have to submit those by Wednesday at 5 p.m. This doesn't change that. We have a way of indicating that things are coming out of committee in the packet. Historically, that's been by placing a cover page on the committee items and showing what's coming out. We've augmented that by bolding and highlighting, but really that's just a change in the formatting, but the concept doesn't change. The only thing this changes is how things come out of committee. Right now, as you just witnessed, every committee item comes up, we have a motion to remove, we have a second, we have a vote, then we have a motion to approve. This simply moves that vote up into the consent agenda so that we can basically collectively remove a number of things through our vote on the consent agenda. And the document was written to make it clear and concise that what your consent vote means, consent agenda vote means. So the only thing that was left, and I think the heart of our discussion in committee, was what happens between 7:30 and the time when your committee items come out. As was brought up by the Ward 2 councilor correctly, it's a very dynamic thing. Sometimes we have easier nights like tonight, and sometimes we have long nights, and discretion of the chair is important. And so we came to this compromise agreement, which I think is sensible, which as it came in, essentially it required all committee items to go in the consent agenda, and that would mean that if something wasn't going to come out, it would have to be removed at the time of the consent agenda. And again, the question is what happens between that time and when committee items come out if a chair decides not to actually bring it out that night for whatever reason. Something has evolved, another discussion has changed things, et cetera, all the things that we count on chairs to do for us to help us keep moving. So under the original proposal, before the handwriting, we just simply had to recommit it back to committee, but that wasn't what we wanted to do. So this basically gives discretion to the chair to place something in the consent agenda if they want. If they don't want to, and some chairs may not, they can have all their things handled under the process we just did tonight for everything. And then the other thing was more of a clarification that if something is in the consent agenda is removed, it falls back into where it was originally, which is under committee. So let me play out a couple scenarios for you. So the most common scenario, I believe, will be that something's coming out of committee. The chair will note that to the clerk by 5 p.m. on the Wednesday proceeding. It goes into the agenda as coming out. It's noted in the consent agenda, and we vote on the consent agenda. When we get to committee items, it's already out. We can have a motion to approve, amend, whatever we want to do right off the bat. The second one is something is slated to come out, but the chair doesn't want it in the consent agenda. Basically, that process, because that's what we've been doing for the last million years plus. So I really am a strong believer in this. I think it doesn't impact or affect anybody in the public's view other than maybe to improve it, because they'll have more clarity on what's coming out. And when we put something in as coming out, we are signaling that we're going to talk about it. And in fact, if something falls out of the consent agenda or gets approved to come out in the consent agenda, it may give people watching, now they know it's coming out instead of waiting until 9:45 to find out that it's not coming. So I really hope you'll support it, and I think that over time we'll find that this really helps save, this is the death by 1,000 paper cuts. If you can save 15 seconds 40 times a night, it adds up times 24 meetings a year, etc. So that's my proposal to you, my hope that you'll support it. Hope I did a good job explaining it.
Further discussion. Councillor Khan.
Bob,
I'm sorry, I didn't spot you, Bruce.
Yes, thank you, Council President. So I attended the committee meeting just before this meeting as we discussed this, and while I can definitely see what the councillor from Ward 1 is trying to do and accomplish, I personally, after the first year of being on the City Council, I haven't found that to be too onerous in terms of that effort of going through and making the motion to remove and then the motion to approve. To me, it didn't really seem like that time consuming. My only concern is, and again, we're changing a rule, and I know actually it was the council from Ward 1 proposed this with another amendment that maybe we try it first and see how it works before we adopt this into the rules, because I can't think of all the scenarios, but I'm wondering if there's going to be a situation where, because we have the consent agenda with all the things coming out, but let's say we did not because something got approved before the Wednesday 4 p.m., but it's under committee items, and then maybe we might forget to say motion to remove from committee because we've gotten into this habit of everything in consent. And I don't know, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate and wondering why are we rushing to maybe make this change and maybe try it and see how we get used to it, because it is at the discretion of the president. If we ask maybe to add some things to the consent agenda, let's just try it before we make it a formal rule. That's all I'm asking right now on this particular one. Thank you.
I'd like to, Councillor Vogel, before I ask the clerk to comment.
Gosh, nobody would be able to hear me. What a shame. We did have quite the conversation in committee, and there were a number of other councilors available to contribute. We voted, I think, in favor 2-0 of accepting this, but I would be happy to just somehow what the mechanics would be of trying it and see how it felt. What would be that? How would we motion that if we wanted to do that?
The council can do anything they want by order. I mean, I respond to your orders. If you want to make the order temporary for one meeting, we could do that. I mean, that's probably cleaner than doing it unofficially.
I was going to ask the clerk to comment more globally on.
Well, as I understand it, all we would be doing is when if a chair contacts the office or us by email and says, I would like it out, and I would say, fine, I'll put it in the consent agenda. If they contact me and say, I'm going to remove it, but I don't want it in the consent agenda, I don't put it in the consent agenda. It's at the will of the chair, am I right? It's not a big to-do. It's one more thing we can do imperfectly.
All right, Councillor Tantar.
I mean, we can just pass this and make it a rule.
Sure.
And then if we don't like it, guess what? We can change the rule again.
Perfect.
So I favor this, even if it does end up saving 10 minutes, it is 10 minutes saved. So I do favor that. But I do understand some of the concerns.
Okay. Anyone else? Hearing none else? Councillor Zeid, you're up again.
Yeah, I just want to address the at-large councillor's comment. So nothing, again, for me, I'm not seeing any changes between Wednesday. Nothing changes except for between 7:30 and the time it comes out. Right now, as it stands today, if you are a committee chair and you want something to come out, you have to tell the clerk by 5 o'clock on the Wednesday preceding the meeting. If you do not, your only way out of committee is to waive the rules, and that's a 2/3 vote. So this is all in concert with it. It's just trying to squish the vote into one thing instead of drawing it out over a long period. And I think we've had a couple of relatively quiet meetings, but in the next couple weeks, we're just going to get hammered with transfers and all kinds of things. And if 12 things are coming out of committee, that's 12 motions to remove. I think we've hit a balance point here. We've addressed the chair prerogative, which was the best counter argument. It's been addressed. I think we should give it a try. And you know, I just want to say this last thing. This doesn't preclude the council from doing anything. If something's not in the packet and you want to bring it out, waive the rules. If something was in the consent agenda and then doesn't want to come out, send it back to committee. I mean, anything you want to do is possible. My best argument, I think, is that removing from committee is A, 99% of the time non-controversial, and B, we do it all the time. The number of recommits we have, it pales in comparison to the number of times we remove. So forgive my software logic brain, but that's how I look at it. What's the biggest case or the most numerous case?
Councillor Agaman.
Yeah, I'm the one that scribbled on this to get some last-minute changes. I'm going to vote in favor of the rule. What I share with the councilor at large that I think this is a bit weird, but I'm going to vote for it. Let's try it. If it's no good, we'll repeal it.
Councillor Khan.
Thank you, Council President. I just wanted to add one more thing, and I think more, you know, I'm hearing what everyone's saying, and I'm hearing the compromise here. I'm going to vote against this, and I want to bring up one more aspect. It may have been very clear to many of you when you see what's coming out of the committees, but sometimes things will be in our packet as coming out, and they didn't. And so, as someone who's, again, you know, going through all of last year and trying to be on top of and prepared, I will see things listed in front of the committees, and I think they're going to come out, but they don't. And I think, again, I'm just being mindful as we are going through our agenda, we're making sure we're not overstepping our procedures because we're forgetting when maybe something is going to come out that it wasn't slated to or notified by Wednesday. And I just wanted to add that last point. I don't want to beat the dead horse, but I'm going to vote against this because I think it's going to be cumbersome. Thank you.
Further discussion? Hearing none. This being a rule change, I'm going to ask for a roll call vote.
It's the motion to amend to allow 17A. Councilor Z?
Yes.
Councilor Devlin?
Yes.
Councilor Eigenman.
Yes.
Councilor Khan.
No.
Councilor O'Brien.
Yes.
Councilor Shan.
Yes.
Councilor Tontar.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Council President. Motion passes. We now have a motion to approve as amended.
There is the motion to approve as amended. We've discussed the amendment. Is
We
that
have
correct?
more amendments.
We have two more
We have
minutes.
other amendments going? All right.
We will.
Would the chair like to propose other amendments?
Point of order.
Point of order. I actually have been able to read the scribbling, but we haven't. We should
Read it into the
yeah,
record?
read it into the record. please. That's
Maybe
right.
just the only paragraph that changed, beginning with the president.
Yes.
Has the sole discretion to place matters on the consent agenda, accepting committee measures, period. Pursuant to the deadlines set in Rule 16, committee chairs may
Ask the clerk.
Ask the clerk to place committee measures on the consent agenda.
ask the clerk to place committee measures on the consent agenda. Thank you. This,
This rule
This
should
rule shall not be construed
To limit or alter.
or alter other rules relating to removing items from the committee, including without limitation, Rules 7F, 7G, period. The
As said in, right? Is that? Sorry.
I didn't hear, sorry.
Want me to read that sentence again?
Please do.
Yeah, just from reading it, did you want to include as set in rules?
No.
No.
No, it's stricken.
Including within limitation, Rules 7F and 7G.
As set in is now replaced by including without limitation.
Okay.
Continuing, the retention thereon of any measure on the consent agenda is subject to the unanimous consent of the members present. When the council reaches the consent agenda during its meeting, committee items removed from the consent agenda shall be handled during the regular agenda under the measure's respective committee report, comma, under Rule 7F.
Thank you.
Now that we have some clarity,
Mr. Clerk, if you could move those along.
is there an additional amendment to
I
the?
think we need we need to vote on that.
We just did.
We did.
We did.
Well, let's vote on it again.
What the heck? Let's vote on it again.
We did vote on that matter, so let's move.
We did, and there was just one no.
That's correct.
Okay. What's the will of the council? One more time?
The will of the council is we've already voted on that matter. Let's move on to the next amendment, if there is one.
Motion to amend rule and add Rule 17B.
Second.
Moved and seconded to add Rule 17B.
Did you read it?
Could you read it?
I certainly can.
Thank you.
17B, supporting copied, parentheses, paper.
Richard, hold. Does everyone have a copy of this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know if I had them all. Go ahead. I apologize. Go ahead with the reading.
Supporting copied, parentheses, paper copy, close parens, documents for council agenda items shall be placed in the packet and provided to council members only the first time the item is introduced to the council. Subsequently, as items are taken up for debate, whether in committee or during regular meetings, it shall be the responsibility of each councilor to have retained the documents for reference, period. Notwithstanding the foregoing, the electronic version of the packet posted on the website shall be complete.
All right, so this was handed to you to pass.
Excuse me, is there a motion then? You have a motion seconded. Is there discussion? Councilor Vogel.
All right. I happened by Councilor Tontar today, and I said, you know what's going to take the longest is this discussion on the rules. All right. So I've been after this for just a little bit of a while. This has been my movement. Just for your edification, in this packet, if we were to reproduce this consent agenda, it would consist of 43 pages of introduction and an additional 72 pages of documentation, just in this one packet. That's just one packet. That's just my packet. If you go on, if you were to reuse this packet, so that means essentially, there's an additional 54 pages, all of which we've already seen. If it goes on to the next time, if we would see it again. So the whole idea behind this is to make us responsible for the documentation. Just the documentation, not the order, not the introduction sheet. And should it happen that an order goes back or a motion goes back to a committee, there's always a last sheet that the clerk includes about the history of the item so that we can kind of follow it. That would then be included, but we will not get the documentation a second time. I hope everybody understands that. So the packet we would get, instead of every week being this, would be reduced to this. We'd save a tremendous amount of paper. I've been doing it all along. I take the packets apart, I put it together into another binder. It works really well. Councilor Earls was trying it. I think Councilor Tantar said he was trying it. What is this?
I don't know.
It's just a copy of it.
Just a copy.
Oh, okay. So I encourage you, if, and we voted in committee 2-0 to accept this. Again, if it doesn't work, we can always go back, but this is a paper-saving item, and if we can find a way to all go electronic, so be it. But nothing changes for the public, and the clerk's office. I've talked with the clerk's office; they're into it. Tricia especially is into it. So I encourage you. Let's try this, and if you need any help putting it together, I'll be more than happy to help you.
And the example that the counselor cited, a total of 115 pages times 11 of us is 1,265 pages of stuff we already have if it's reproduced again. Councilor Zede?
Just a small correction, Mr. President, times 10. So just wanted to say that. And I just say it half in jest. But so for me, this has no change, right? Because I'm going to get the digital packet, which is going to be complete. And I told the sponsor that was really important to me because the way I work through the packet on my computer is I scroll through it. And I personally do not want to spend my time reassembling a PDF that is 120 pages long by pulling out pages from previous one. But I acknowledge that essentially that's what those who use paper will have to do if they want to have a complete packet. My biggest concern is that I think if this goes through, it has to come part and parcel with some way the clerk has to version documents well. And so what I would say is that we may have to consider, so when a committee chair notifies that something's coming out of committee, that is the time that's supposed to be the trigger to say, it's not the same as it came in, by the way, and here's the updated one. And that's been important to me, particularly on things like zoning changes, where typically a zoning ordinance might be 10 pages, and I'm reading the one that came in, and I didn't realize the committee has made changes. The final rub with it, I think, is timing of committee meetings, which is actually like a problem with physics, actually, that you can't change physics. But the meeting the night of is very problematic for many reasons. I think this will bring that further to light because, again, if we spend time doing something, usually it's getting on the same page. What are we talking about? Even tonight, we're passing out, like, okay, is this V1 or V2? Is this the one that came out of committee? So I guess all I'm saying is the responsibility would fall in several places. One is the committee chair would have to notify on Wednesday with the most up-to-date whatever, which means it can't change between Wednesday and Monday, which would preclude some meetings that happen like 6:30 on the night of a council meeting. And number two is I think this identifiers that we use will have to have a tail added to them that indicates which version it is so that when we bring it to the floor, we say, okay, we're talking about 17B version 2, version 3, whatever it's going to be. So those are that's really my big thing. Otherwise, this doesn't really change anything for me. And it's really up to the paper users to decide what works, what will be sensible, and how much time it takes to reconstitute a packet. I think you have a system that works. Some others may need to learn that. Thank you.
Further discussion? Councilor Khan, did you want to be recognized?
Sure. Thank you, Council President. There was an amendment, so does this need to be read through, or at least I believe we added the last portion, notwithstanding the foregoing, the electronic version of the packet posted on the website shall be completed. I think that goes to what the council from Ward 1 was saying.
Yeah, no, that's what, we had that.
Okay.
Yes, I believe that's yours.
Okay, good, just want to make sure. No, I'm also an electronic user, but I do want to point out, I feel like we already have that situation sometimes when things are amended in committee and we don't always have them in the packet and it's left on our tables here. So I feel like we've already kind of see that happening. Thank you.
Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Wow. Thank you very much.
Are there any further amendments
There
to our
are.
rules?
Motion to amend Rule 21.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
I will defer to the.
Councillor Tantar.
So Rule 21 mandates a mid-year budget review, and I could read the whole thing to you with the amendments, but they're essentially three changes. I think this stems from a time before the current charter and also before reorganization of the finance department. And some of the changes are designed to reflect the reorganization, others to change the timing. So in line 3, basically it mandates that the Budget and Finance Committee hold a meeting to review the budget, mid-year budget, no later than February 15th. I recommend that we do February 28th, and I'll give a full explanation for that later. In line 4, the chair of the committee shall cause both the city auditor and city treasurer to attend. Amended that to take out the both and to substitute the finance director for the city auditor and city treasurer. That a similar change in line 6, where it says that the city auditor to distribute the documentation. I changed that to finance director. Then in line 7, currently it states that the full council documentation in support of the mid-year budget review should be given to the council no less than 1 week prior to the council meeting. I say no less than 2 weeks, all right? So we have more time to examine it. And so you also note that no change in the last sentence where any council member can request of the chair of budget and finance that a department head attend that meeting to review the budget in mid-year. So giving us, assuming we get the budget late January, that gives everyone an opportunity. It takes a while to go through the budget. Gives everyone an opportunity to review it, to see if they want to ask questions of any department head, and then our committee would probably be sometime mid-February. So that's why I suggested these changes. Thank you.
Further discussion? Hearing none. We'll have a voice vote. All those in favor of making this rule change, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Is that a no?
Nope, just one last small one.
One other comment about...
No, motion to amend, yes.
Just this was discussed in committee, but in Rule 7J, I think there's a not missing.
Oh, right.
So that was already discussed in committee, but I just wanted to make sure that it gets in there too. I think it's just a Scrivener's error. Any measure to authorize the issuance of a bond in an amount over $500,000 shall not be removed until the conditions are met. I think it just didn't get in there last time around.
Second, I'll make a second.
Thank you very much.
Seconded? Discussion? I guess we've already had that discussion. Do people understand what this motion is about?
Yes.
All those in favor of this motion, say aye.
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 Opposed? Very well.
So do we need a motion to accept the rules as amended?
Second.
We do indeed.
So moved and seconded.
Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
One no.
Thank you.
And thanks to the Rules Committee for slogging through this. Good of the order. Hearing none, I have one item, and that is several councilors have asked to meet with the chairman of the CPC committee. We're going to do that this Thursday night at 7 p.m. here in council chambers. I invite any counselor who has questions about it. It's going to be an unstructured discussion. We're just trying to figure out how they operate and share some of our perspectives based on recent experience on how they might either modify their rules or in some way reflect the kinds of problems that we have experienced this past fall. So you're all invited. I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
Executive session next with the city solicitor.
Yes. At our next meeting, we're going to have the report on litigation by the city solicitor, and it will be in two parts. One part in open session, that's for closed litigation. One part in executive session, and that's regarding active litigation, where strategy may be part of the discussion. And that'll be at our next meeting on the, is it the 8th of April?
Yes.
Okay. So forewarned is forearmed. Any other good of the order items tonight?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're done.